All right, friends, you probably hear me breathing and clicking things. It's probably fun to watch, right? We're about to jump into this whole enchilada to discuss the First Alert Weather Day declaration that we have made. If you're watching this on Facebook, I would encourage you to share it. I'm sharing it right now over to the WSFA weather page. The idea is to maximize the number of people who can hear about the storms heading our way tomorrow night. We have had a rough start to our tornado season. Tornado season in Alabama sort of is a big, long thing. It lasts a while, doesn't it? This goes from November until May. We used to call it two separate tornado seasons, but we've since sort of learned that it really, there's just kind of the one, and it just sort of runs out from the middle of fall on through middle of spring. Okay, so a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. The latest trend in the data that I'm seeing here is for this thing to speed up. That is not bad news. We like that. The faster it can move in here, the more likely we are for people to be awake when it's ongoing. And we watched and saw with, frankly, kind of a broken heart what happened in the Flatwood area. That is a prime example. Wrong place, wrong time. If that storm happens in the middle of the day, people are at work and school most likely, and we do not have the tragic loss of life that we saw. But we don't get to pick that, unfortunately. Okay, so what's happening right now? Let me take you in. This is radar out in Mississippi. Check it out. We've got a tornado warning bonanza northwest of Jackson, Mississippi, on near Indianola, Cleveland, Mississippi, Drew, Mississippi. Then back down between Greenville and Hollandale along the Mississippi River, and then across the state line there into Lake Village, Arkansas, Dermott, Arkansas. There's a city called Dumas, Arkansas, in case you're wondering. I was a big group of a bunch of weather geeks that almost got in a fight at a Sonic in Dumas, Arkansas one night. We honestly did nothing wrong. It's a bunch of local guys cruising for a bruising. But we had the punter at Mississippi State with us, a guy named Robert Wallace, who was actually a pretty bad dude. And so they backed off. Enough story time. Sorry about that. I'm feeling like stories today. Been a tough day to be a Mississippi State Bulldog, by the way. Been a sad set of circumstances for us. So we appreciate everyone's thoughts and prayers. And gosh, what a sad situation that whole thing's been. So here's what happens. Watch with me here. This is, I'm going to remove our Vance Law Firm and Brian Jewelry logos just momentarily. I'm sure they won't mind because we want you to see the map. They do too. That's actually why they sponsor these. If they didn't sponsor these, we wouldn't have the equipment to do them. So we thank them for their partnership there. So this is 7 o'clock tonight. Storms in Mississippi. Not much happening in Alabama. But watch as we cycle through this whole thing. We'll just kind of go hour by hour here. The first sign of trouble is in the morning tomorrow. You see these storms popping over here. But when you look at the atmosphere, it's really not warm enough yet to really prompt any huge severe weather concerns with these morning storms. I'll click on it and show you a forecast sounding. That's just kind of an x-ray of the atmosphere. It's 60 degrees at the surface, ton of wind shear, no instability. So we're not overly concerned about tornadoes at that point in time. But as the atmosphere warms up, which it will do so by noon, you'll start to see these individual storms pop over here west of I-65, south of Tuscaloosa. These would be in an environment that starts to become a little more storm supportive. The temperature now up to 69 degrees, still a ton of wind shear. And as the afternoon turns to evening, those will continue to be in that favorable environment. And then a broken line of storms will move out of Mississippi and into West Alabama during the late afternoon hours. This is valid at 3 in the afternoon. And you see the same thing I see here, which is a pretty tough situation unfolding with some active thunderstorms there coming into west central Alabama. Some of these could be strong to severe. And yes, we could deal with isolated tornadoes. We could deal with a few tornadoes in this mess too. Back to the maps. So we'll keep plowing ahead here. Here is 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Got a pretty strong storm along the Elmore-Coosa line, but when you look at the storm environment, 63 degrees. That is too cool, too stable to really get wound up about the risk of a tornado. Could it happen? Yes, but it sure is. It's the long shot of all long shots. Okay, so here's 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. It's a very messy look here. You've got intense thunderstorms now into the city of Montgomery. And what would happen here is this line moves east. You would deal with a few isolated problem areas where you could have rotation, where you could pop a tornado in this. And some of the tornadoes down in southwest Alabama could be on the strong side. That could be an EF2 plus type scenario with the strong wind fields that we're seeing in this scenario here. Again, this is valid at 6 o'clock in the evening. Then it keeps on plowing east. It's fast. That's the other trend we've got to jump in and point out to you here. The trend in the data is for this to move in quick. So just be aware of that as we kind of talk through this. That's been the trend in this whole scenario, is for a faster arrival time. And this is a map I haven't shown yet, but I'll show it to you now. I'll try to make it as large as possible before I do. We like to try to do that to help you out a little bit. Try to read it as best we can. Wish I could zoom. I don't think I can. It's a bummer. So, make it a little bigger. Can you see that at all? I know some of you are watching on a phone, so I'm making this as large as possible. So just bear with me as I do that. So these are storm arrival. This is the general kind of worst of it time frame here. I've just adjusted these. If you saw these earlier today, they've changed. So pick your county. It's all alphabetical here. I'm not going to read them all off to you, but pick your county and dive into it. Some questions coming in on Facebook. Why tornadoes so far in December? That's actually not uncommon. We've had big tornado outbreaks in December before. I can recall December 16th, 2000. We had a very substantial outbreak of severe weather and tornadoes, including an F4 tornado up in the Tuscaloosa area. I'll never forget that day. I was younger then, but I remember it vividly. Really rough tornado situation. So back to the timing map here. All that to say, December tornadoes are actually not unusual in our state. So there you have it. There's the timing map on this whole thing. For those wondering about a map, I'm not showing maps as often anymore. The reason? They're confusing. This looks like a rainbow sherbet ice cream, and the words on there give people the wrong idea. So I'll show you the map on occasion. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, though. What I do not want is for you to get wound up about where you live on this map. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Here's what matters. There's a risk of tornadoes across the entire southern half of the state tomorrow. That risk is highest in the south and southwestern counties. Everyone watching this who lives anywhere south of Birmingham in Alabama needs multiple reliable ways of getting weather warnings, and you need to know where you'll go if a tornado threatens. If you live in a mobile home and you need to get out of it, tomorrow morning, go to Google and search your county's EMA. So if you live in Elmore County, go to Google, type in Elmore County EMA. You'll see a phone number. Call it. Ask them, hey, where's the closest storm shelter that's going to be open tonight? They will tell you an address. Write that address down. Take a picture of it on your phone. Save it on the phone. That way you have a paper copy and a digital copy. And if you end up in a tornado watch or warning situation, you'll know where to go, and you'll know where to go quickly. So there's the map. The message here, that's the message. Everything I just said is the message. You need multiple reliable ways of getting weather warnings and plan ahead of time where you're going to go. If you do those things, you are going to be A-OK. So that's the scenario from a tornado perspective. Again, timing this out. We'll pop that back up on the screen here. And there it is. I'll animate it through here. This is the TV version of this graphic, so we try to animate it and make it not all on the screen at the same time until the very end. And there it is. Okay, should we be worried and proud? Well, worried, no. You just need multiple reliable ways of getting weather warnings. and you need to plan ahead of time where you're going to go. That's the case if you live in Prattville, if you live in Demopolis, if you live in Selma, if you live in Montgomery, Pike Road, anywhere in Alabama south of Birmingham. That's the case. So don't get wound up about where you live and the specific questions about, our joke on that, what about slap out? Don't get caught up on that. It doesn't matter. All you need to do is what we're kind of focusing in on right now, the real talk here between you and I. Every community in the state has a risk of seeing severe weather south of Birmingham, and the advice is the same no matter where you live. So what about Wetumpka? What about Slapout? What about Deatsville? What about Pike Road? What about Florala? Those questions, I can't answer them because the answer is what I'm saying right now. You need multiple reliable ways of getting weather warnings, and you need to know ahead of time where you'll go if a tornado hits. Because we don't know exactly where the tornadoes will hit until the storms form and we can track them. If we knew right now where the tornadoes would hit, we would be out there going door to door, knocking on doors, saying, hey, there's a tornado coming tomorrow. You got to get out of here. It doesn't work that way. I wish it did. Gosh, this would all be so easy. Unfortunately, that's just not the kind of the way this whole thing goes sometimes. So we take the good with the bad, don't we? So the other thing we should talk about here while I have you, and I'm about to have to go, and I know I don't want to go either, but the reason I'm going is a good one. WSFA 12 News at 10 starts in about 6 minutes. So we'll just essentially move this conversation from our Facebook chat, you and I, over to the TV side. Okay, Kayla Sims, could you give clarification on timing for Dale County? 6p to midnight for coffee compared to 9p to 2a for Dale. Hey, that's a great question. I hadn't finished updating the graphic yet. Is the honest to goodness answer there. I'm going to move Dale County up to be 7p to midnight. So all of the timelines are probably going to get moved up a little bit. Dale was one that I missed coming through there. Any severe weather tonight or early in the morning? No, Lori Beth, you're good there. I just want to know if it's going to rain all day. Chris, no, it is not going to rain all day. It is not going to rain for most of the day. If you live east of I-65, it's dry, especially southeast Alabama. It's dry for most of the day. It's mainly later in the day and into tomorrow night where you start to get into some of these issues. Before we go, other thing I want to show you here. This is wild, man. Just buckle up. This is the European temperature pattern, and it turns sharply colder as this whole thing blows through. Temperatures in the 50s for highs, 30s for lows, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the model doesn't go out far enough to help us here, but there are other models that do. And I want you to look at this big blob of purple over here in the high plains and back into the Rocky Mountains. That is frigid Siberian air that is going to cross the pole, the North Pole, and zip through Canada and dive into the United States. And guys, if the data I'm seeing is right, this is going to be the coldest Christmas in a long time. And I mean a long time. So a first alert on that too. Just a heads up. It is going to get much, much, much colder. It gets colder Thursday, and it stays cold for about that next week. But then after that, by Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, the data is almost unanimous that we are going to deal with a massive blast of Arctic air. I'm talking freeze your pipes, burst your pipes, pets have to come inside, like really, really brutal stuff. Will it snow or not? We don't know. That'd be cool, though, wouldn't it? How would you suggest stay calm if weather-related anxiety is common in these situations, Hannah? I would, just to reassure you, I would tell you, April 27th, 2011, the worst tornado day in Alabama in the last 50 years easily. Less than 1% of the state of Alabama was hit by a tornado that day. And that day's the worst one we've had in my lifetime. And probably your lifetime too, and less than 1% of the state got hit that day. 99% of us on our worst day did not get a tornado. And every other outbreak is like that too. And events like tomorrow night are even more so like that. 99.9% of us will have nothing. It's just rain and wind. So understand that counties are big and cities are big and neighborhoods even are big and tornadoes are small. The odds of you getting directly hit by a tornado are very low. And so that's thing one I would tell you is your odds of getting hit are low. The second and more important thing I would tell you, if you have a weather radio and the weather app and you plan ahead of time where you'll go if you're placed under a tornado warning, then even if you were to get hit by a tornado, which remember point one, super unlikely, even if you were to get hit by a tornado, if you follow all of our advice about where to go and having multiple reliable ways of getting weather warnings, you'll be in your safe place. And how's this for a statistic? If you are directly in a tornado, but you are in a site-built home or storm shelter, lowest floor of your home, hallway, bathroom, or closet, your chances of survival are 99% or higher. Those are great odds. So hopefully that gives you some reassurance. Is it going to get bad in Crenshaw? Hagan asked that question 4 times. I'll answer it once. We don't know. The answer is the same for everyone in the southern half of the state. There is a risk of some tornadoes. You need to be ready just in case. I got to go. It's TV time.